Hi, what we're going to do today, we're going to go ahead and brush off this deer, and then we're going to go ahead and go inside and finish it. It's really windy today, so we did have plans to do the whole thing outside, but it ain't happening today, let me tell you. And this here is finishing techniques for commercial quality whitetail deer mount. For you do-it-yourselfers, you hobby taxidermists, and people that really don't have a whole lot of money, go into a fancy shop, pay a taxidermist $500, whatever the cost may be, to go ahead and mount it, and you happen to be able to go ahead and have the skill level to go ahead and mount it up yourself. Okay, now what do? First of all, in the beginning, obviously you used good reference material. That's always important. But what we're going to do now is just concentrate on the finishing techniques. And we're going to be using supplies that you can pick up in your own hometown. You don't have to go off to a taxidermy supply company and get the special paints, 4 or 5 different colors, and a fancy $200 airbrush. Nah, you don't need that. I'll show you the way to save money and a way for you to be happy with your mount. Because once you get it done, looks like a whitetail to me now. Just wait till we get it done, get it shining. You'll really like it. It'll last you your entire lifetime and your children's and grandchildren's lifetime, provided, of course, you store it properly. So I'll shut up and I'll go ahead and get busy and start brushing this thing out. What we're going to do now is start up here in the ears. Basically, go ahead and brush this down. Notice too the hair patterns when they aren't combed. Very detailed for a whitetail. So we're going to quickly go through this. I'm going to brush this around here. Notice this here is a soft nylon brush. You can use a brass brush if you want, but you have to be careful. Even though it's soft metal, the brass, if it was a brass brush, you'd have to be careful because you could actually scratch the glass eyes. So a soft nylon brush. And the reason why is you want to go ahead and fluff the hair. A lot of this, when you mount it, pull the skin down, and like me, I go ahead and I use a lot of hide paste. So I make sure that way I can model in the muscle detail, the tones, and things like that. So, and it really adheres good. So what I want to do here is come right up here around the burrs, fluff up all that. And if you're like me, you're never really satisfied with anything, so you're always going back and making adjustments and doing this or that to make it look good. So, like I said, now, again, I'm working quick. Sometimes you can take your time, go real slow. That's not necessary. So. Do this side, do this ear. I have a couple staples in here that I'll take out inside. I have one here and one here. Just depends upon how well you want the hide paste to adhere to the ears. Usually give my mounts from a week to 2 weeks to dry. Just depends. I've turned them out a lot quicker than that. What I want to do here now, I'm going to fluff that hair up and make it look live. The nose, chin area. Like I said, the wind's blowing. Now, get a larger brush. You can pick this up at your local department store. $5 or $6, which I think is kind of expensive, but I want to bring that down, comb this, comb it all over. We'll get down here in the brisket area, the armpit area here in a few moments. Get up here between the antlers. Now, this is what I like about using a stand. You can loosen it up. You can flip that baby all the way around. No problem. stands you can make yourself, or you can buy them commercially made from a supply company. You know someone local, weld steel, get some steel together, perhaps yourself. What I'm doing here, brushing out the armpit, brisket, armpits, brisket. They have natural hair patterns. There's nothing in nature that's absolutely perfect. There's always a flaw here and there. Each deer is going to be a little different. Each whitetail is going to look a little different. But the hair patterns on whitetail, more or less about the same, but sometimes the hair patterns can change too. Depends upon how they curl, what form you use. And being a taxidermist, you can manipulate the hair and skin too. But I always try to make everything look realistic. I don't want to give it the taxidermist look. I want it to give it the look that it was when it was alive, and that's very important. A lot of people will come up and say, well, I can do this, I can do, well, okay, but is it real? That's why reference is so important. So what we're doing, hurry up, brush through there, fluff this area, comb down, and again, we're going with the lay of the hair. Certain hair lays certain ways. You can't brush this up because it doesn't lay that way. Now, something here I want to show you. Let me turn the stand a little. Now, let me bring this up. Very important feature on whitetail deer, mule deer, and any other animal that you're working with. Excuse me. Right back in here. Back part of the ear butts. This hair is important. Now you notice too, there's a natural flow and pattern. Now if you get into pronghorn antelope, you have little swirls and hair up around the horns. Now, incidentally, these here are antlers, they're not horns. So, but I have a video online you can watch too about that. There's a difference between antlers and horns. So what you want to do, you want to make sure this hair around here, when you first mount it and comb it down, goes good. We'll fluff that up. Basically, just wanted to show you that. I could be going into a little bit more detail, but I think you get the pattern. Okay. Now, spin this puppy around. It'd be terrible to drop this, wouldn't it? Alright, got most of that done. Shop vac. Do not use compressed air. Use a shop vac. Shop vac of your choice that has a blower portion on it. Turn it on and blow it off. I'm going to blow this off, then I'm going to turn it on. Once I turn it on, I'm going to blow it off. And then I'm going to go ahead and take it inside. We're going to go ahead and finish it from there. So let's get started. Notice the pattern I'm using. notice the pattern I was using, like I told you before. Back and forth, work it loose. Then I come back, maybe go a little bit this way, but you don't want to go too much because then you're going to have hair sticking out. Incidentally, when you go to pick up a taxidermy mount, put your hand underneath the chin. I usually put a hand back here to pick it up that way. But a lot of times you'll see people grabbing it down here and shoving their hands into the hair, messing it up. No, you don't do it that way. So this is what you want to do. You want to take care of it, and it'll last you forever. As long as the dogs don't get into it, doesn't fall off the wall, the kids don't break it, you'll be fine. So what we're going to do now, take it inside, finish it then. We'll see you back then. Well, it's a little bit more quieter in here, I believe, and the wind's not blowing so bad, because outside earlier it was blowing bad. What we're going to do, as I tried to say a little bit outside, was that we're going to go ahead and finish up this whitetail deer. And you don't have to have fancy tools and equipment, fancy supplies. You can actually use plumber's putty, which is an epoxy, or any other type of epoxy that will dry hard and not crack, and a putty that you can smooth out. Mix the two together, because it usually comes in A and B, a hardener and a resin color. And you can fill in the cracks and the voids or any little area you need to touch up, make it look more realistic before you actually paint it and color it in. So that's something you can use there. What I'm going to use is something you can use, and since I am a professional taxidermist, I have all the bells and whistles and tools and supplies, but what I'm trying to do here is show you an alternative method. But I'm going to go ahead and use the professional stuff, so-called professional. But this here is called Magic Skull. You have a hardener and you have a resin. Now if you use plumber's putty or some other type of epoxy compound, you're going to have basically about the same thing, but infinitely less expensive. This here, roughly right now, is $12 to $17 for this little kit. It's a pint kit, it's 8 ounces each, and it goes up from there. You can get more. We use a lot of this every year, and it goes quicker for us. We get a pretty good discount because we buy in volume. But again, you don't need this. You can get something local at your local hardware store or discount house. So what I did earlier too, I took equal amounts of these two, and I went ahead and modeled it together, kneaded it, just like that. I had to do it underneath hot water to go ahead and get it to the consistency that I needed. Now I do have some water in here that I'm going to have to use to smooth it out. And let that. And what I'll do, I'll come around and I'll fill in little areas around here. Now, it's not going to be smooth as of yet, but it will be, and I'll show you how I'll do that there with a cotton tip. Q-tip if you want. That's a name brand, but a cotton tip. Ear swab. And you see how sloppy that looks? That's no problem, because we're going to clean that up here just momentarily. And I do like a creamy consistency, but not too creamy, because then it gets just too sloppy and gooey, and you can't do nothing much with it. Let me put this back down. And where's my rag? I have a rag here. Here's a rag. And I'll take a Q-tip, cotton swab, ear swab, and I'll go ahead and I'll come back in and smooth this right out. And if there's a little nick or something in the skin, when it was skinned out before you got it, or if you did it and there's a piece of skin cut away, it comes back from the tannery, well, you can actually model back in some of the flesh that you needed, the actual skin itself. The only hard part would be replacing any hair, and even then it becomes fairly easy. But here we're not too worried about it because we just had a minor nick and everything's okay. Now again, this here is for the people that can't take it to a professional taxidermist and pay $500 or more to go ahead and get it done. But these here are simple techniques that you can do at your house, your home, no matter where you're at in your garage. And you don't need a fancy airbrush or something like that. Now if you do fish, you're going to need an airbrush, but we're just doing heads. Now technically, using an airbrush on heads, you should do that too. But if you can buy the paint, the dyes, etc. in aerosol cans, and as long as the stream coming out is just right, the right spray mist, it's going to work fine. And I'll show you how to do that. Now usually, you use all kinds of reference to mount something. Yeah. I'll go ahead and show you this. A little bit close for the camera probably. Having reference, even close-up reference, of the facial features while you mount it in the beginning is what you need. Can you get that focused in? Nope. Well, okay. How about now? Nope. Well, anyway, what you need is good reference material. There's different books, pictures, and actually albums you can get to collect to make sure whatever it is that you're working on is accurate. Okay, now let me go ahead and adjust this a little. Let me cue in on that eye. Can you get that eye a little bit better? Okay, now as you can see here, I used the Q-tip, I put the putty, I used the word putty, epoxy compound up around here, and I smoothed it out, got it the way I wanted. Now, usually give that a few minutes to dry. Actually, it's pretty warm in here. So, I'm going to show you something here that I like to use. Suede Renew. It's suede. It's a dye. It's a leather dye. It's black. You can get any brown you want. Any brown, any black, just about any color. Spray. You don't need a spray gun. You don't need an air sprayer. Now, the next little item we have is typical acetone. Acetone is absorbed by your skin, goes into your kidneys, and it can hurt you over a period of time. That's why sometimes women that from years past that used to use this here a lot to clean off the fingernail polish or something like that, that's why sometimes they'd have little problems if they got older, because it's an accumulative effect where the acetone will stay in your body. So if you use this, I like to use it, not because I want bad kidneys or anything, but simply because it works. It takes paint, dye right off. You can clean things up and it dries super fast, just like that. Henceforth, the reason why I have on the gloves. So you want to be careful with these chemicals. But now, this here is something you get at your local store, your department store, Walmart, Target, Kmart, whatever it is, no matter where you're at. You get this here fairly easy. Now, later, when we go to gloss everything, right here we have clear glaze. It's a polyurethane. This here is the triple thick. This is what some fish taxidermists use. This is what some people pay a lot of money for from the supply companies or wherever it is they get their fish paint, and they glaze it over. All you got to do is go to your department store, whatever it is again, Wally World, Kmart, Target, whatever, hardware store, wherever it is you're at. You glaze over your fish, there you go, right there. That's all that is. That's a sealer, it's a glaze, it's to make things look good. Because what we're going to do once we get all this done we're going to come back, we're going to spray here, spray there, spray there. We're going to give it the lifelike look. This is something here that I was doing in 1980, 1981, 1979 to 1981. I started doing that. Customers were really, really happy with it because it's true to life. It makes everything look wet and alive. So all these items here you can get at your local store, with the exception of Scalpel. That's something there I got from a taxidermy supply company. But if that was plumber's putty, it'd be the same thing. All these items here you can get locally. So we've got this eye basically finished as far as the modeling compound. Now I want to quickly go through the rest of this here and do the same thing. Get that a little bit back here. Because remember, I've got a hardener in here. This is going to harden up. So I'll go ahead and do this, and I'll come back and show you what I did, and we'll go from there and start coloring. So we'll be right back. Hello. Alright, here we are back again. Had to give that eye set there just a few moments there to go ahead and dry. Now, done this side. Now what we're going to do is turn our attention to the nostrils, to the nasal area. Now, some taxidermists, they want to go ahead on the form itself when it comes in, cut the nose off, hollow out all that, and put in what's called an artificial septum. Why? There's no need for that, really. I mean, if you're going into competition or you're trying to prove something that your mount's better than the next guy's, hey, as long as the customer's happy, as long as you're happy, you put together a good mount, a solid mount using good quality materials, why add these extra features? Because nobody really knows about them. As long as it looks like a deer, it's put together properly, and your customer's happy, or you're happy, you're saving money. Extra septum right now, I don't know, anywhere from $12 to $17 or more. Just depends upon wherever it is you do your shopping, if you want to go ahead and go that route. But as you can see, this looks like a whitetail deer nose to me. So now up in here, where you folded the skin around into the inner nostrils that you hollowed out, you want to look and see what finishing you have to do. A little flashlight works wonders. Go ahead and get a close-up of that there. Look around with a little flashlight, looking and said, yep, we got a little bit of area in there we need to fill. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back in, use the same epoxy setup that I have. You can use your plumber's putty or whatever other epoxy compound you have and put in there. Look at that. You see, a lot has to do on you mounting it. How did you mount it? So you have to make sure you mount it correctly to begin with. And the less finishing work you have to do. So I've got a little bit of area in there I'm not too happy with. I'm going to have to go ahead and epoxy over that. Take the appropriate pick. These here picks and everything that taxidermists use, all they are is dental probes and picks. So if you know someone that's in the dental field, you can pick them up for nothing. Alright. And what I'll do, I'll come back if I have to, smooth this down here again with a cotton swab, dipped in hot water. Smooth that down, then you have to let that dry. This here is working out pretty good. We're at the right consistency. Over here, let me get this in. I know you probably can't see this one too awful good, but this here requires a little bit more. What I'm doing, I'm making a good transition between the skin and the form that it's up against. Again, we want to make sure all this here is lifelike. And we'll show you how that dye we're going to spray here in a little bit is going to work out. But again, it depends upon what you want. If you're like me, you're never really satisfied with something, so you're always going back and changing it, doing this or doing that. Let me look in there. Get some of this. Block the camera's view here for a sec probably, but excuse me. I'm happy. That's done. Now, if we look at this, we got to make sure everything looks the way it's supposed to. Looking around, hair, fluffed. Now, remember what I said earlier? I got to take out a couple staples. Got one over here. Usually on the staples, once you staple it down tight to hold it to the ear liner, you have to come back, pop it up a little bit before you go to take it out with a pair of pliers. So you have to use another dental probe, screwdriver, whatever it is you have. But again, these here are all tools that you can get in your hometown usually. There you go. Now that's ready to go. Now, what we'll do, we'll take this simple suede Renew leather dye. You can get it at a shoe repair shop. And chances are you got a shoe repair shop in your place. Now again, I want you to remember, these finishing techniques are for the average person that doesn't really have a lot of money, doesn't want to go into the expense buying a fancy airbrush setup and spray in 4 or 5 different colors and this and that. You're going to see how nice this is going to look here in just a few seconds. Now, here's a new can. I sprayed it earlier. Make sure all the bubbles out in there. Now, I don't want you to get too panicky, but watch this. I'm going to come back and clean it up. Watch. Now, in the ears, I'm spraying it right down into the base, to the ears. Pull the hair back out of the way. Alright? Now, remember, you're looking at that, oh God, that looks terrible. Well, just a moment. Remember that acetone I was telling you about? Don't forget those ear swabs I was telling you about, those cotton swabs. I keep calling them ear swabs. Most doctors tell you, man, don't be putting anything smaller than your elbow in your ear. So, this ear is soaked with that acetone. I'm going to come back. I'm going to wipe off the hair around here that had the overspray on it. Alright? I'm going to blend that in. I'm going to actually wipe it off. Now, obviously, the eye itself is covered. We're going to take this, wipe off most of it. Then I'm going to come back with a cotton swab soaked in acetone and come back and get around that and finish cleaning it up. But right now, I want to get it off the hair and do that. You may have to change these out 2 or 3 times. Now, here, same way. Get all that down here. I can see where some of it leaked down. I'm going to get it up here, get all that off the hair. And again now, while I'm doing this and taking this off the hair, anything that, those little cotton filaments that are in this cotton ball doesn't grab, it's going to blend into the hair and look natural. Come over here and get the center of the eye right around there. Now throw that one away. Going to get a clean one for the nasal area. Because again, you have to have it blend in. You just can't have like a fine line of this or a fine line of that. Notice here how it's all blending in. Matter of fact, I see a little problem we're going to have to correct right here. And do it right now. There's a little area that for some reason I did not see. Okay. That's corrected. A couple extra squirts up there. Now if you use a lot of spray, you overspray, you're going to have a respirator on or something like that. A little bit of here, you can control your breathing when you spray. Don't suck in the air or any of the vapors, okay? So you have to step back. But if you're going to do some, a lot of airbrush, if you do have an airbrush and that's what you want to use, you're going to have to go ahead and use the proper safety when it comes in. All right, let's go back here. Get this puppy wound up. We're going to come back, blend all this in right here. Now, kind of look it over a little bit and see this. Look up here. Now, give that a moment there to go ahead and dry. I'll go ahead and I'll recap the acetone because that stuff there evaporates real quick. Now, the hair. You see some of these taxidermy mounts, the hair is all real pretty. Looks like it's got a perm in it. Well, you just comb it back up in there. Now, if it's mounted right, all this hair is going to lay properly in the proper fashion. Okay, over here. Get it laying good. Then you kind of go by and you look. Yep. The illusion of depth. Because you have that dark color in there. There you have it. Look around here a little bit more. Now, what we'll do, reopen the acetone. Come back to the eye, shake off any extra. We'd come around. Get off that excess around the edge of the eye. You want to make sure everything looks good. Get a new one for the other eye. Don't use the same one. Alrighty. We've got that one done. Go ahead and give that there a moment. Go ahead and dry. I'll step back here for a moment so you can look at that. Okay. Now, we have all this. Another once over look. Make sure that your bottom lip and everything's colored in. Take another look, see if there's any adjustments you want to make. There's not, so always make sure you pick up the polyurethane clear gloss, because let me tell you, you don't want to accidentally pick up the dye and spray the whole thing. But again, this here is a clear glaze. It's gloss. Always use gloss. 1, 2, 3. 1. One, two, three. There you have it. Now, That looks like pretty good whitetail to me. That's commercial quality whitetail, finished with common everyday supplies. With the exception of what I did here, Magic Sculpt, but you can use putty. Plumber's putty, which is an epoxy or any other epoxy. But this is an easy way for you as the hobby taxidermist or simply the person that's do-it-yourself person. And that's what you want to do. You can save some money. So I hope all these tips helped you out. I kept it simple, short, and sweet. But again, we're using common everyday things that you have right there in your town, perhaps on your workbench right now. Enjoy.